Welcome to the Tattooed Truth Podcast with Anna Love, a space for embodied conversations for soul-led rebels. I'm your host, Anna Love, intuitive empowerment coach, subconscious healing guide, and no stranger to burning it all down to rise in truth. Here, we dive deep into identity, healing, personal power, and what it really takes to lead a soul-aligned life. You'll hear unfiltered insights, real stories, and live coaching sessions with bold callers ready to break free and embody their next level. This is your invitation to reclaim your voice, rewire your patterns, and rise fully expressed. Let's get into it. Welcome to the podcast. So today's episode is all about identity and the masks that we wear. And I'd like to start off by asking you, how much of your identity is truly you versus how much of your identity is a mask that you've worn to either fit in, to get external validation, to feel worthy, to connect? Think about that. And I'm going to tell you a story or two from my past here. So I love to bring in my stories to relate. And maybe you've had something very similar, or maybe it stirs up something that you've learned through your life, just things that you've seen other people doing. So let's dive into it. So identity is a really strong factor in that plays into how people act and who we are. How do we show up into the world? How do we show up in our jobs, in our relationships? Are we being the same person across the board? Are we being the same person when we're in the shower and we're by ourselves that we are when we're talking to our brothers or sisters, our mothers or fathers, our teachers, our friends, our grandparents, right? Perfect strangers. Are we the same person across the board? And I'm not here to say it's right or wrong, but the more that we can identify with one way of being, right? The more in alignment we are with ourselves. So think about when you were young. And my favorite question to ask clients is, who did you need to be? Okay. Who did you need to be when you were a kid to gain connection or affection? And usually it stuns people to have to think about that. And sometimes people know exactly what I'm talking about and they go right for the answer. And then other times people have to think about it. And then they'll even tell me that they had to be a certain way with one parent and a different way with another parent. So think back to, who did you need to be as a child in your family? Did you have to be the smart one? Did you have to be the caretaker? Did you happen to be funny? Right? Some people default to being the troublemaker, the rebel, right? And they like to call themselves the black sheep. Think about what you needed to do. And I say needed because as a child, we do what we need to do. And it's no, there's no blame. There's no fault here. It's just what we do as children. Our primary need is to be loved, to connect, and to be valued. And we're going to do that however we need to do it as a kid. But what's important is to look at it as an adult and notice it and just say, oh, am I still doing that? Am I still only feeling valuable for the way that I identified or got my value or worth as a kid? So you'll notice if and a lot of things I'm about to say, I'm not saying it's bad or wrong to be smart or to be funny or to help people out. That's not what I'm saying here. So don't mix it up. It's very important to be a well-rounded individual. And of course, we want to be smart and we want to be good at sports, or we want to be funny. We want to have good rapport with people. We want to take care of our friends. We want to have empathy and help people. Right? And sometimes we want to live on the edge a little. We don't always want to walk straight and narrow. We might want to go off the beaten path a little bit here and there. That doesn't make us bad or wrong. But looking at how that pattern became who we identified as. And that is going to steer you into the friends that you choose, or the job that you take, or maybe even you don't take a job because that identity doesn't work. They don't need to work for whatever reason, or it's above them, or they're going to take a low level job, or they're only going to take a high level job because they identify with that. You really have to look at this identity because it revolves around everything that we choose all through our life. And if we are identifying with a label that doesn't feel true to who we truly are, it's going to feel bad later in life because we're going to find ourselves in a job and in a whole entire life with things on people and events happening all around us. And we're going to go, how the fuck did we get here? You chose it, my friend. Everything that you have chosen is tied back to that identity. And it's typically the one that we needed to be as a kid. So maybe you've already cracked the code on that, on this, what I'm talking about, and you're like, oh no, I don't do that anymore. And I do this instead. Right. So look at that. Does that serve you? Does this identity serve you? Some people switch identities like the drop of a hat, right? Changing their socks. They're this type of person. They identify as maybe a rebel when they're with their friends, but when they're with their grandparents, they identify as this like quiet little good girl or good boy. And then when they're alone, they want to get loose, and because they don't want anyone else to see them at this like level, right? How do people identify? And let me tell you a couple of stories about me. So when I was between the ages of 16 and 24, I talk about this every now and then on episodes. I was in an 8-year relationship, and I had been a loner up until, well, I was a loner. It's not like this relationship changed me, but the fact that I identified as a loner made me the perfect candidate to be in this 8-year relationship because I was with someone who also was a loner, and they valued that about me, that I would stay to myself and keep to myself and not make a lot of friends because it made them insecure when I made a lot of friends. I didn't know this at the time. I didn't know these things about myself and about this person. But what I did was I became exactly what they wanted me to be, right? So I was already a loner, but whatever it was that this individual wanted me to mold into, I did that. And I remember that. So he was in a band, and it was a pretty popular band back where I grew up. And he was a big deal in the town, right? He was very well known. And there was something about that identity too that I liked, right? Like, oh, I'm with the band, right? Have you guys ever been with the band? And you like think that you're like the shit. So we hung out with some unsavory characters every now and then. Let's just put it that way. And I remember there was this one time where I was driving because I was pretty much the only one with a car. I was the one driving, and there was like some bad things going on, okay, down the street that some of the people that I was hanging out with were involved in. I had nothing to do with it. I didn't even know what was going on, but they ended up getting arrested. And I remember the police officer, like they all went to jail. Okay, I did not. I'm telling you, I hung out with some unsavory people, and they weren't my girlfriends or anything like that. They were friends of the guy that I was dating. And I remember one of the police officers looking at me, and he goes, "What are you doing with these people?" He goes, "You need to get yourself out of this situation, out of this group of people before you end up in jail too." And I was just like, I had a chip on my shoulder back then. And I was like, whatever, man, whatever. I just was like, I didn't say anything back to him, but I was like, who cares what you're saying? But he wasn't wrong. Like I was identifying because I wanted to be with this group of people. I was identifying with them. Whatever they were choosing to do, I'm getting roped into it. And I wasn't willing to let it go. Okay, so that's one tiny little pinhole glimpse into the type of person that I used to be, right? And what I would do. None of that was in alignment with my truth. Like I was a nice person. I would never have stolen from somebody, robbed somebody. And that's what they were doing down the street. They were not being kind and they were hurting other people. Right. And I don't care like what the reason was justified, because of course there was a reason that they did it and this person did me dirty and blah, blah, blah. None of that matters. What matters is I was almost taken down with these people and I had nothing to do with their choices, but I did because I was choosing to be around them. Okay. So that's just one way that identity can get you into trouble. Let's think of another way. Have you ever, done things because of peer pressure and, knew better, but you did it anyway? I remember for the longest time that I would drink alcohol and it became my identity because I didn't want, sometimes I wouldn't even want to drink, but I would drink anyway because everybody else was around me. And you don't want to be the one that doesn't drink. Now I can be in a circle, I can be in a room, I can be in a friend group and not be the one that drinks because I don't give a fuck what people say about me now. I cared too much back then. I wanted to identify as the girl that didn't stick out, that didn't go against the grain, that didn't do things that everybody else didn't do. Now, oh my gosh, that is the furthest thing from my mind. And like I said in the beginning, I'm not looking down at myself or anyone else, but there just comes to a point where I am not going to do things that aren't healthy for me anymore. And I'm not going to do things to make someone else happy or to make my ego happy that I'm fitting in. And it's only awkward if you make it awkward. So a lot of times people will do things to fit in because of peer pressure because they don't want to be awkward. But I actually happen to think it's the exact opposite. It's fucking awkward when you're trying to fit into a mold that isn't really fittable, that you don't fit into. Why are you doing the things that you're doing if they don't feel good to you, if they make you feel like shit the next day, or if you're hanging out with people who are doing horrible things? Why are you hanging out there just to what? Just to be included in a group? Again, not looking down on you. Just think about things. Think about how you really want to identify, and if that's for your highest, great. If it's not, stop doing it because it's going to backfire on you. The price that you're paying to get whatever it is that you think you're getting out of it isn't freaking worth it. So we as humans, we want to be liked. We want to be like other people. Okay. We do not like rejection. And so these are the reasons why we take an identity that may or may not be in full alignment with ourselves. And I get it. Like I've done it. Like it's like I said, there's peer pressure, there's parent pressure, there's society pressure, there's fitting in at school. There's some people are afraid to say that they don't understand what the teacher said because they don't want to raise their hand and be the one that says, I don't get it. They then they'll identify as being the stupid one. Right. So sometimes we don't even, it's not about fitting in. It's about, oh, they're going to label me as stupid or they're going to identify me as the girl who always asks questions. Now I will ask questions. If I need further clarity on something, I will ask. And without any, making meaning around what the other person could be thinking about me, or what does it mean that I don't understand and I have to ask 2 or 3 questions. None of that matters. That's not even real. What's real is I need to know the answer and I'm going to ask better questions to get the better answer. And if that person has a problem with it, then I guess that person has a problem, but I don't have the problem. So looking at your life, I always like to turn this around on the people who are listening here. So how is this conversation hitting you? How is it helping you? How have you, shifted your identity to either fit in or to get along with other people in the past? Whether it was being in a relationship, choosing friends, wanting to get love from your parents. I mean, these are basic needs that we're looking for here. So our identity is there for a reason. It's there to categorize us. It's there to say, I'm a girl with blue eyes and brown hair, right? I just said three different things. And I know there's a lot of people out there that don't want to identify as, even a gender anymore. Or, don't call me that, this, that, or the other thing. But I mean, that to each his own, right? To each his own with that. But how do we identify? Okay, so what's the lesson here? There's always a gorgeous lesson, and it happens to be when we attach our worth to our identity and we are seeking validation, we actually lose a piece of us. We lose our authenticity or our, connection to who we truly are. We're willing to sacrifice who we truly are at our core. We're willing to put a mask on. And that's our ego running the show. That's our ego saying, whoever they think I am, then that must be better than who I truly am. Right. And like I said in a different podcast, we have all kinds of masks. Think about it like we've got them lined up on our wall, hanging up. We've got all these different masks, and we're so good at pulling down the mask that will cover up who we truly are for different places that we go in the world. So these external identities, that's what it is, they often keep us stuck and we are betraying ourselves, right? We are in a cycle of self-betrayal. And the tragedy is when we do this for years and years and years. And it's also not great when we don't even realize what we're doing, right? We get so good at it that we become immune to it. We don't even realize or recognize who we really are. Like I've worked with people and I was this person who come to me and they say, I don't even know where I am. Right. And I remember going through this myself. It was an identity crisis. Like, who am I really? Because the person who I'm being isn't her. It is not in alignment with my truth. So what's really, really key about this too is we want to feel safe in who we are. We want to feel safe that it's okay to be me. And when we put on all these ego masks all of the time, all day long, every day, it doesn't feel safe because our nervous system knows. It knows that it's not safe to be me. And so I have to be on high alert and I have to be this version so that I can get approval or whatever it is, even get a paycheck sometimes, right? So people do this all through their lives. There are millions and millions of people out there right now not happy in their marriage, not happy with their partner, not happy in their career, not happy at their job, not happy in their friend group. Okay. I had someone tell me last week, I can't remember who told me this, but they said something about their friend was saying to them that they don't like their friend group anymore, but they don't have any friends, so they just continue to hang out with them. That is identity. I identify with these people over here and I don't like it, but maybe I'm outgrowing it. Maybe I used to like them, but I don't anymore. But I don't have the courage to let them go because then I'll have nothing. I'll have nothing to do. How about let them go and go find yourself. Go figure out who you identified with or as in order to be fitting into that group that doesn't even serve you or fit you, right? Think about that. Sit with that. Meditate on that. Do some deep diving on that. And the things that I do with my clients is we pull back the layers. We actually look into ourselves. Who are we underneath all of the layers of the false pretense, right? And when you start doing that inner work, I always call it shadow work. When we start doing that, all of a sudden the old versions of us just peel away. We don't need to identify with being this version or that version to fit in. And eventually we get to a place where we're just stripped down to who we truly are. And yeah, it feels vulnerable, right? It feels like a snail without its like covering, without its shell. And we do have to protect ourselves, right? Because the snail can't be out there without some type of a shell. I'm not saying that you need to strip down if it doesn't feel good for your nervous system. I'm saying taking those steps to dig deeper and you do it slowly and you do it with someone who is trained in doing this type of thing, then your nervous system says, I'm safe to be me. I'm safe to show everybody my true colors and who I really am. And I'm safe to actually show myself my true colors and who I actually am, because we're kidding ourselves as well as we're kidding other people. So true safety comes from that alignment with our authentic self, not a persona. So asking yourself what identities that you've related to, what have you worn to feel accepted? Which of these identities still run your life and run the show today? And finally, asking yourself, are you ready to release or let go of those old identities that no longer serve you? So I invite you to share with me at my Instagram account, Heal with Anna Love. Let me know your stories. Let me know if there's any questions or comments that you have. And please share this episode with someone who may need to hear it. And always like and subscribe and do all the things so that I can get higher ratings. And I really appreciate you listening. And I will talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in to the Tattoo Truth Podcast. If this episode lit something up in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, leave a review, and make sure you're subscribed so you never miss a truth bomb. If you're craving deeper support, guided healing, or a space to reclaim your voice and power, check the show notes for ways to work with me. Remember, your truth is not too loud, too bold, or too much. It's exactly what this world needs. Keep showing up, stay wild, stay true. I'll see you next time.